Let us look at the essay In Defense of Shyness by Harold Nicholson. This essay is prescribed for the students of BA Part 3, English Literature, Paper 2. First, a look at the biography of Harold Nicholson. Sir Harold George Nicholson was an English diplomat, author, diarist, and politician. He was the husband of writer Vita Sackville West, their unusual relationship being described in their son's book, Portrait of a Marriage. Sir Harold George Nicholson, who was born in 1886 and died in 1968, was a British diplomat, historian, biographer, critic, and journalist, and diarist of note. Harold Nicholson was born in Tehran, Persia, which is now Iran, on November 21, 1886, where his father was British charge d'affaires. His father eventually became the first Lord Carnock, and as a child, Harold visited the estates of his uncle in Ireland, Lord Dufferin. Harold was an aristocrat through and through. His early life was spent in diplomatic posts with his father, the Balkans, the Middle East, Morocco, Madrid, and St. Petersburg, Leningrad. He went into the diplomatic service himself, quite naturally, in 1909 after going to Balliol College, Oxford. On leave from his diplomatic post in Constantinople, he married Vita Sackville West in 1913. Their friends were aristocrats, diplomats, and literary notables, among whom was Virginia Woolf, the famous stream of consciousness novelist. As a diplomat, Nicholson was at the Paris Peace Conference at the end of World War I, and in the 1920s he served in the Middle East and Berlin. He resigned in 1929 to be near his wife and to write. And he had time for his diaries. They were published by his son Nigel in 3 volumes in 1966 to 1968. He was said to have never written a boring line. On reaching 50, he commented, "I am still very promising and shall continue to be so until the day of my death," which came 32 years later. In politics, he was the Member of Parliament for the National Labour Party for West Leicester from 1935 to 1945. He was intensely opposed to Munich, the Munich Pact of 1938, signed by Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain and dictated by Hitler for German subjugation of the Sudetenland of Czechoslovakia. He was committed with Winston Churchill in opposition to all dictators. But he was not much of a Labour man. After the war, that is, Labour man means belonging to the Labour Party, the political party. After the war, he failed in the election of 1945 as a National Labour Party candidate. He tried again in 1948 in a by-election at North Croydon, this time as a Labour Party contestant. He was unsuccessful. In his own words, he was a cerebral socialist. He could not sympathize with the point of view of his mainly working class constituents. They were too far from his own class, socially and intellectually. He was so civilized and so cultured that he seemed the last gentleman in politics. He observed in 1948 how difficult the proletariat are. Proletariat means the common public. They destroy the grass, and there were little ragamuffins selling cigarette cartons on the 2 pools. Yes, I fear my socialism is purely cerebral, that is mental. I do not like the masses in the flesh, that is in reality. Nicholson's suspicion of the working classes was paralleled by his snobbishness about Jews, Arabs, blacks, and Americans. He shared these prejudices with his wife. He knew these feelings were not worthy of him, but he could not seem to do anything about them. For instance, in the first 3 months of 1933, he and his wife were on a lecture tour of the United States. Vita said, with all their kindnesses, these people have very little imagination. Of all the works Nicholson wrote, the history and diplomacy books stand out, and the diaries too. He died at Sissinghurst Castle on May 1st, 1968, 6 years after his wife, never having recovered from her death. About the essay on defense of shyness. The inner life is the zone of consciousness and conscience, and it is introverts who have the most direct access to this non mechanical, impractical, genuinely individual, and therefore disturbing realm. This is why they are genuinely needed, but not appreciated, even by themselves. The deeper and more human part of ourselves can inherit the earth only when we lose our shame. And that means moving from the debilitating bromides of self help toward the higher truth of self acceptance. Introversion does not equal shyness. A shy person is someone who gets anxious on social situations. An introvert is someone who, although they may enjoy socializing, gains energy from being alone. It is possible that a lot of introverts start out by being shy. They rarely interact with anyone unless they absolutely have to. That isn't introversion though, it is shyness. There are many instances where he would really feel like saying something, but just could not bring oneself to do it. But why would anyone care about what one had to say? Would it be the predominant thought behind it? Where the self esteem issue was born out of, it's difficult to say. Maybe some childhood incident that has long since been forgotten triggered emotional trauma that hid itself away in the shy person's subconscious. While some people understand and are okay with introversion, shyness tends to be more universally maligned. A disease that needs to be nipped in the bud as soon as possible. The essay on defense of shyness by Harold Nicholson is a satirical essay. The writer is exploring the benefits and importance of shyness. He says that shyness is essential for the development of our personality. Shyness keeps one away from evil. According to Nicholson, there are two types of shyness, physical and mental. Those suffering from physical shyness can be identified from their activities, meaning when they are in public they twist their hands, or if sitting on a chair they will shake their legs. But mentally shy people find it difficult to express themselves. They are unable to easily converse with people. The writer then talks about the benefits of shyness. If a man is shy in public, then he is considered to be a gentleman because of it and begins to enjoy his shyness. According to the writer, if you want to become a gentleman in your society, then you will have to remove envy from inside you. That's all about this essay. Thank you.